Costa Rica sets details ahead of national elections next February 6. Torrential rains in Brazil's Sao Paulo state between Friday and Sunday left at least 18 people dead. Burkina Faso's military junta on Monday reinstated the country's constitution after ECOWAS and the African Union announced the nation's suspension and sanctions. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Costa Rica sets details ahead of national elections next February 6. On Sunday, political parties held rallies and caravans, as it was the last day to hold meetings in public areas prior to the national elections of next February 6. Fabricio Alvarado, presidential candidate of the New Republic Party, said that activities were held in different points of the country, while the Liberal candidate, José María Figueres, asked the citizens to participate in the elections. So far, the electoral material is being sent to the several polling stations, as the country also sets COVID-19 protocols for the voting day. In Colombia, police authorities in southern Cauca reported that units from the El Bordo station were attacked by two individuals on a motorcycle. The violent incident took place near the local children's park, where the two officers were wounded. After shooting at the members of the security forces, the criminals fled towards the rural sector. The wounded, a district officer and a patrolman, were quickly assisted in the taking to the local hospital, where they are recovering successfully. According to Brigadier General Pablo Ruiz Garzón, commander of the Police Region No. 4, there is an ongoing investigation to find those responsible for the cowardly attacks.
I inform you that in the evening hours, at approximately 7:15 p.m., several members from the police station of El Bordo in southern Cauca were attacked by two criminals and drug traffickers. Two police officers were injured, fortunately without any serious injuries. They were taken immediately to the city of Popian to be treated, and they are recovering successfully. This crime was committed by alias Cordon, and we are offering up to 40 million pesos to capture this criminal. We're also offering up to 80 million pesos for alias Andrés Patino or El Mocho Llavecilla, also responsible for this attack.
In Chile, around 6,000 people demonstrated this Sunday in the streets of the city of Iquique in the north of the country against Venezuelan asylum seekers tearing apart their makeshift camp and belongings. The call was concentrated in the downtown area of that town to advance along Cabancha Beach towards Playa Brava, where the demonstrators carried elusive banners and Chilean flags. The destruction of tents, clothes and supplies was denounced, and in the face of this, the inaction of the police force. It should be recalled that last October, a group of demonstrators also held a march that ended with the burning of migrants' belongings that were stationed in the sector. The xenophobic practices against Venezuelan asylum seekers have been ignited by the discriminatory discourse of outgoing President Sebastián Piñera's administration. And in Bolivia, the spokesperson for the presidency of that country, Jorge Richer, highlighted on Sunday the results of the economic and social measures implemented by the government of President Luis Arce Catacora, which have contributed to the recovery of employment, industry and development after the de facto government's administration. Richer highlighted that until October 2021, at least 1.2 million new jobs were created in the country in different areas, a milestone that marks a substantial change in the employment rate. The new sources of work were generated in institutions, industries, and even in their own enterprises. The figures based on surveys by the National Statistics Institute of Bolivia are accompanied and certified by important international organizations and were explained in detail by President Arce's spokesperson.
Our public companies in the year 2021 have generated 3,000 direct jobs, but have also generated 20,000 jobs indirectly. With the urea plants, the country has revenues of $20 million monthly. The next year, 2022, we have projects revenues of $350 million because it will also add the export of urea to Peru.
During the presentation of the report on economic indicators, the spokesperson of the presidency of Bolivia, Jorge Richer, also referred to the decrease in poverty. The high-ranking official pointed out that extreme poverty decreased by 11.1%.
Means to have reduced poverty in an 11.1%. It means that there are 283,000 people who have stepped out of extreme poverty in this country this year.
At this hour, we get to you with news from Peru. This Sunday, President Pedro Castillo, after holding a meeting with his former Minister of Interior, Avelino Guillén Jáuregui, accepted his resignation. The Peruvian president had been criticized by various sectors who demanded, among other things, an official position on the situation between him and Guillén Jáuregui. The head of the Interior's office was one of the most qualified officials in his cabinet. After the meeting with Guillén, the Peruvian president communicated through his Twitter account his resignation. It was also known that President Pedro Castillo terminated the appointment of General Commander of the National Police, Javier Gallardo Mendoza. In Paraguay, at least 2 people died and 4 more were wounded in a shooting incident that occurred this Sunday in the city of San Bernardino. The events occurred at the San Jose Asunción Flores Amphitheater, where a musical show called Hayumina Fest was taking place, attended by thousands of people. Authorities do not know the causes or possible perpetrators of the attack. One of the dead is model Cristina Vira Aranda, wife of soccer player Iván Torres. 4 people were taken to hospitals after suffering gunshot wounds. And Cubans protest against the U.S. embargo ahead of the 60th anniversary of having been subject to that cruel U.S. policy. With the 60th anniversary of the U.S. imposed embargo on the Caribbean island, Cubans in the city of Santa Clara have come out to the streets to protest against the economic sanctions. Demonstrators were seen riding motorcycles, bicycles, and horses and yelling the slogan of Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Activists had Cuban flags and toured the whole city towards the Guevara's memorial, a space filled with symbolism and final destination of the initiative. We'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. Torrential rains in Brazil's São Paulo state between Friday and Sunday left at least 19 people dead. According to São Paulo state government, the downpouring precipitations left 18 deaths, including 7 children, and left around 500 people homeless or displaced. After flying over affected areas, Governor João Doria announced he was releasing $2.7 million to help the 10 most affected cities and 645 municipalities in Brazil's most populous state, home to 46 million people. Of the victims, 11 died on Sunday after landslides buried several homes in cities of the interior of the state, and there were also 9 injured and 5 missing. Brazil has been badly affected by several major weather-related disasters since the rainy season began in October. In the northern Bahia state, 24 people died and another 19 in southern Minas Gerais state, where thousands have been displaced. In the Dominican Republic, 13 provinces were declared on green alert due to a cold front advancing to the northwest of the country. The National Meteorological Office, ONOMED, announced that since early Sunday morning, this phenomenon has caused clusters of clouds, generating downpours, thunderstorms, and isolated wind gusts. They also informed that the most affected provinces will be those located in the Atlantic coast, the Central Mountain Range, and some sectors of the border area, while in the municipalities of Santo Domingo, there will be occasional showers and possible gusts of wind. This Monday morning, the Civil Defense reported that at least 100 homes have been flooded after heavy rains in the municipality of Sabana Iglesia in the last few hours. And Malawi recorded at least 32 fatalities caused by the tropical cyclone Ana, which tore across the country. According to the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, there were 147 people injured and 20 missing. Meanwhile, nearly 200,000 households and more than 800,000 people were affected. Chikuwa and Zanje were the country's worst hit districts, accounting for most of death and damage to houses, property, livestock, and crops caused by floods and strong winds induced by Ana. President Lazarus Chakwera declared a state of disaster in 15 districts and appealed for humanitarian assistance from the international community. The United Nations Security Council met on Monday for the first time to discuss the conflict near Ukraine's border, while the United States and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization maintain its pressure on Russia under the pretext of preventing an alleged attack on the neighboring country. The meeting, called at the U.S. request, came amid warnings that Moscow is planning to invade the former Soviet state. Russia has repeatedly denied this, but says the possibility of Ukraine joining NATO threatens its national security. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said Russia's actions pose a clear threat to international peace and the security and the UN Charter. But Russia's deputy ambassador to the UN, Dmitry Polyansky, described recent U.S. warnings of a possible invasion as baseless, calling the request for a UN meeting and a clear stunt. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov urged the United States and North Atlantic Treaty Organization to stop exacerbating tensions over Ukraine. Likewise, the Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Nikolai Patrushev, also rejected Western warnings about a planned invasion. Other Kremlin officials have said that member states of the Security Council will not support Washington's accusations of an alleged attack by Moscow on Ukrainian territory. We update information in Eastern Europe as this Monday the leader of the self-proclaimed People's Republic of Lugansk, Leonid Pachinkik, denounced the sending of mercenaries to Ukraine. He assured that among the thousands of advisors sent by NATO, which is already a serious fact, there are also pure and hard mercenaries arriving camouflage as advisors. Pachinkik assured that in several localities of the Donbas controlled by Kiev, they have identified numerous fighters who speak in another language, wear foreign uniforms, and have a very belligerent attitude. The leader also assured that the intelligence agency of the United States trains local mercenaries to carry out secret operations, recruitment, and sabotage. Portugal's Socialist Party won early legislative elections on Sunday, securing an outright majority in parliament. Prime Minister Antonio Costa, the leader of the Socialist Party, said in his victory speech that they will rule the country for the next 4 years with 117 deputies in the 230-seat parliament. Turnout reached 57%, despite nearly 1 million people, equivalent to 10% of the country's population, being in home quarantine due to COVID-19. The number of the left bloc's deputies decreased from 19 to 4, and those in the Communist Party and Greens Alliance Unitarian Democratic Coalition from 12 to 5. Meanwhile, Rui Rio, the former mayor of Porto, who has been leading the Social Democratic Party, announced that he will resign after the party secured an absolute majority.
The people have voted and the Socialist Party has won. The Portuguese people have confirmed today without doubt what they said 2 years ago. They want a Socialist Party government for the next 4 years. An absolute majority doesn't mean absolute power. It doesn't mean to govern alone. It's an increased responsibility. It is governing with and for all Portuguese people. The Portuguese have pulled out a red card to say no to political crisis. The Portuguese have shown their desire to count on stability, certainty, and security in the coming years, a direction for our country.
We stay on the matter. Lisbon residents react to the Socialist Party's unexpectedly large election victory.
Things and the continuity of the policies that have brought us to where we are. I want to believe that this will be another step towards an economic and social recovery after the pandemic and the economic crisis for all Portuguese people without exception. In my opinion, many people have been disappointed or fed up with the right That's why this result of Costa is not surprising. We expected him to be in a good position. I am from the PSD. I voted for them. I thought that the Socialist Party would win, but I never imagined that they would have such a majority. And now we will have to live with this majority for 4 years.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Burkina Faso's military junta on Monday reinstated the country's constitution, suspended since it seized power a week ago, modifying institutions under the argument of pending the establishment of transitional bodies. According to the Patriotic Movement for the Safeguard and Restoration, the junta, it ensures the continuity of the state pending the establishment of the transitional bodies, according to a fundamental act of 37 articles read on national television by Lieutenant Colonel Cyprien Cabore. The military officer specified that this lifts the suspension of the constitution, which completes for the transition period until the return to constitutional order on a date that was not specified. And the latest move by the junta follows a Burkina Faso's suspension by the African Union on Monday, a week after the volatile country suffered its latest coup. As envoys from West Africa and the United Nations headed for talks with the new junta. The AU's 15-member Peace and Security Council voted to suspend the participation of Burkina Faso in all the AU activities until the effective restoration of the constitutional order in the country. The move came 3 days after the Economic Community of West African States also suspended Burkina Faso from its ranks and warns of possible sanctions pending the outcome of meetings with the junta. In Kenya, at least 6 people were killed after a bus ran over an explosive device. The Kenyan police suspect that the incident was caused by the Somali jihadist group Al-Shabaab. The affected vehicle was on its way to the northeastern town of Mandera. According to authorities, about 7 people were injured in varying degrees of seriousness. Security agencies have not yet determined the number of people who were on the bus. We move on to other topics. Iran said on Monday that differences with the United States remain over the issues of lifting sanctions and obtaining guarantees in Vienna in the talks aimed at reviving the 2015 nuclear deal.
And significant issues remain regarding the removal of sanctions that have not made an agreement possible so far. In addition to the issue of obtaining guarantees, progress should be made in an acceptable way for Iran so that we can close the file. Negotiations in the past 3 weeks have had very significant progress in all 4 issues of lifting sanctions, nuclear commitments, verification and obtaining guarantees.
Oman's Foreign Minister Saeed Badr al-Buzaidi arrived in Damascus on Monday in another sign of a growing reconciliation between Syria and several Arab countries. Minister al-Meghdad said his country's ties with Oman remained strong and had not been affected by the civil war. He thanked his Omani counterpart for his country's support in the war on terrorism. Syria was expelled from the Arab League in 2012 over the government's violent response to the opposition. Human rights groups have also condemned the violence committed by security forces and paramilitary groups, including the bombing of schools, hospitals and residential areas in rebel-held territory. As some countries in the 22-member organization pursue a wait-and-see strategy, others have said they want to see a political agreement between Damascus and the opposition groups before Syria can be brought back to the Arab League. Early this Monday morning, a new Israeli airstrike was registered in the outskirts of Damascus, the capital of Syria. Zana, the state news agency, published that around 3 a.m. Israel launched a round of missiles from the Rayak area east of Beirut against positions in the vicinity of Damascus. The attack is said to have left material damage, while most of the missiles were shot down by the Syrian anti-aircraft defense. So far, no further details of this new Israeli hostility were known. Now we address other topics. Tokyo has launched a mass inoculation drive for COVID-19 booster shots at a temporary center operated by the military as Japan tries to speed up delayed third jabs to counter surging infections. The center run by the Self-Defense Force in downtown Tokyo reopened after closing down in late November. It will be vaccinated about 700 people aged 18 or older per day this week, ramping up to more than 2,000 a day next month. Another military-run center will begin booster shots next week in Osaka. Japan began administering booster shots to medical workers in December, but has only provided such inoculations to 2.7% of the population, after delaying a decision to cut the interval between the first two coronavirus shots and a booster to 6 months from the initial 8.
I hear the Omicron strain is very contagious and easy to catch. Now I've received the booster shot very early compared to others in Japan, so I feel safe. Basically, I have been staying home all the time because I was scared of being infected. I hope the situation will soon become better because I just had the third shot.
And even if for Western culture and world we have been a month into 2022, the truth is that for 2 billion people across the world, the Chinese New Year and Spring Festival starts tomorrow, February 1st. Mainly observed in multiple countries in East Asia, the holiday is filled with rich culture and tradition that centers around the hope for good fortune and prosperity. The Lunar New Year date is different each year and is dependent upon the cycles of the moon. The lunisolar calendar tracks the phases of the sun and the moon, in contrast to the commonly used Gregorian calendar in Western culture. Although the date varies annually, it will always fall between January 20th and February 21st on the Gregorian calendar. Another constant is that each year has a corresponding animal from the Chinese zodiac. Based on ancient Chinese mythology, so 2022 will mark the year of the tiger. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.